Okay, so sorry I don't have source sheets. I was switching it around last minute. So, okay, we are doing Chumash. Yes, yeah, that was what one. Yeah, and I didn't tell you we're going to do Abravanel because I was like, oh, that would definitely skew your vote. Yeah. Okay, so
in general, especially during a Chumash year.
Oh, of course, yeah, it's appropriate. Yeah. Okay, so we are doing 4 pesukim. I don't even know if we need all 4, but this is in Bereishis Mem Tes Lama Gimel. It's the last pasuk in Mem Tes, and then goes into the first 3 pesukim in Nun. Okay, in Vayechi. Okay, so the scene is Yaakov just gave all the brachos to his kids. Yeah. Okay, so. So Yaakov finished commanding his children, or his sons, and he gathered his feet into the bed. Now, how do your translations / uncles translate? Yeah, so expired is I think how our school translates it.
Let's see what they say for uncles.
I mean, plain pshat is he died, but it's a fancy word for died.
Oh, actually, I think I did this last year.
Yeah, I haven't gotten to uncles yet here.
It says he grew faint.
He grew faint. Interesting. Okay, so alter translated as he drew his last breath. I don't know where anyone's getting these words from. Okay, and he was gathered into his people, which is a reference to death, right? That's used by other people. Okay. Yosef Yosef fell upon the face of his father, and he cried on him, and he kissed him. Which, side point, not related to the shir, but I was reading in Alter's footnotes, and he says like this has now already become stereotypical behavior of Yosef, because who else does he do this with? Yeah, Binyamin, and then all of his brothers. Yeah, okay, right. So like falling on his face, crying and kissing him. Yeah, so it's a thing. Okay.
So that's just like for Yosef, it's just like a way of saying that he was very emotional.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, it's a reasonable thing to do emotionally. Yeah. Also, I saw, this is also not related to the shir. It struck me as weird. I'm not in a past judgment-y way, but in a I don't know. It sounds weird. It's weird in halacha to kiss a dead body. I feel like, Yeah, I mean, yeah, right. And again, I realize also this is not, this is pre-halacha, but I did see a midrash lekach tov, which I think it was a midrash lekach tov or seichel tov. Let's see. I guess we're finding the text. Hold on. I don't know why it's taking long. Let's refresh. Can't be reached. I've used the site too much. I've crashed it. No. Okay, well, fortunately, we don't need it tonight.
Well, let's say pause on what would actually. What would be your reaction if you actually crashed the site?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I don't even talk like that. Okay. All right. So second pasuk. Vaitzav Yosef vadav es harofim. So Yosef commanded his servants, the physicians, lachanot es aviv, to embalm or to mummify, however you want to say, his father. Okay, and we'll read what some of the Mefarshim say on that in a second, because that's the subject of the shir. Vayachan to harofim es Yisrael, and the not yet. Okay. Yeah. You'll use it when the time is right. And the physicians embalmed Israel. Vayimla'u lo 40 yom, and 40 days were completed. Ki chen yimla'u yimei hachantim. That's how long it takes to do the embalming. Vayivko so mitzrayim shivim yom, and Egypt mourned or cried for him for 70 days. Okay. I think the Mefarshim say that it's 70 days total, not 70 plus 40. Okay. So I guess what are the questions? I mean, given the title of the shir. Yeah, why was he involved? Okay, right. Basic question. And this is one of these things where you get into many more problems if you hold that the Avos kept the Torah. I'm working with the assumption that they didn't, but still the question is, why did he embalm him, right? So what would be like the simplest answer?
To preserve his body.
Why would he want to preserve his body? Right. Exactly, right? Because he has to take him on a journey to bury him in the Ma'aras HaMachpelah, right? So Shadal says it in the simplest way. So first he explains what embalming means. So for anyone who doesn't know, then this is what. Well, first it's funny. He says it. Oh, you'll see. Hayum motzim migufa shel meis hamoach v'hame'ayim. They would extract the brain and the guts from the dead body, right? And so if anyone's ever had COVID tests in the earlier days of COVID, when they used to scratch the brain, That was very bad. I identified with dead Yaakov Avinu at that point. More uktzia. They would fill the belly with myrrh, and ktzia is another type of herb or spice. Then they would salt the whole body with nitrum, as we see the translation there, nitrum. Meshach harbayim for 40 days. Okay, fine. The Herodot, you know who Herodot is?
Like, oh God.
He's not God.
No, I know he's not God.
No, not Herod. Good guess though. Herodotus, the historian. So Herodot Omer Shivim Yom. So he says 70 days. Diodorot, I don't know who Diodorot is. Omer Yoser Mishloshim Yom. He says more than 30 days. Okay, then he says Ve'in Savik Shaya Hadavar Hazeh Yadua Yisrael Ulamoshe Yoser Mimash Haya Yadua Yavanim. So he says obviously Israel and Moshe knew about this more than the Greeks, meaning Herodotus and those guys. So whatever. Then he says the pshat B'hine Yaakov v'Yosef Nechnatu Mipnei Shehutzruchu Laholicham LeEretz Acheres LeKavram. So Yaakov and Yosef were mummified because it was necessary to take them to a land to bury them, right? And Yosef especially, who was going to be there for a long time, you know. So Yaakov got there, within a few months. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know actually. But just because I know you know the Yeshua show too, this is like your strong suit.
Yeah.
I was wondering if they have like a recording of like them taking Yosef's body and burying.
I think there are pesukim about that. Yeah.
I was wondering about
I think so. I feel like I looked it up once, but I can't confirm. Okay, yeah. Okay, fine. So that's pshat. Okay, and I don't think you need anything else. Like you need to go any further. Okay, so like we did last time, we're not going to spend that much time on pshat because that was literally it. But there's a nice, just philosophical idea that Rav Hirsch says. So I just want to go over that. Then we're going to do the famous midrash. Okay, and that's really what I want to focus on. And no, not that midrash. Yeah, yeah, that's interesting. Interestingly enough, that is not brought down here. Okay, that's brought down elsewhere. I think it's brought down by Yosef, maybe.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Although I think there is another idea with Yaakov.
There is an idea that Yaakov was concerned people. For those who can't see, because it's not on camera, someone did the bowing down gesture, and so there is stuff about worries about avodah zarah. In fact, Rav Hirsch is going to allude to that. Yeah. Okay. So Rav Hirsch says like this on 52: how striking is the contrast that is revealed here. The Egyptian would embalm the body so that its individuality should endure. However, the soul, he thought, did not remain in its personal individuality, but wandered from body to body, even to animal bodies in manifold metamorphoses. The Jew believes that the soul endures forever, whereas the body wanders. Now, pause there for 1 second. What belief does it sound like he's talking about with the Egyptians? Reincarnation, right? Now, I don't know anything about Egyptian belief in reincarnation, and I also don't know what Rav Hirsch believes about reincarnation, but just to be aware, it is machlokas rishonim about whether reincarnation is a true Jewish idea or a false non-Jewish idea, right? And this one snippet, I meant to look into this before this year, but I didn't get a chance, or I forgot. It makes it sound like he's saying this is like a distorted Egyptian idea, Now he could hold that there maybe is another Jewish idea that is parallel to this, but it doesn't. Sounds like he's setting them up. How striking is the contrast, this is a completely different idea. So he says, once the soul has been gathered into the souls of its people, the body has nothing more to do with the individual. Rather, it is a mitzvah to bring the body as soon as possible into close contact with the decomposing earth. Right, which is why in Israel they bury the body directly in the earth, and in America I think we can't do that just because of laws. So I think they have the breakaway bottom of the coffin. The body returns to dust and goes through all the transformations of earthly matter. The Egyptian believed in the transmigration of the soul. So he's making this like an Egyptian belief, and tried to protect the body from any possibility of change. The Jew believes in the soul's eternal personal existence and surrenders the body to earthly change. So I thought that was just an interesting idea. I had not thought of reincarnation in that way, that he's portraying reincarnation as an idea that there is no individuality of the soul. The soul is shared and cycles, and your personhood is your body. So the Egyptians preserve the body because that's what remains of who you were, and the soul just gets recycled into other people or even animals. The Jew, though, believes that the body gets recycled and is really part of the earthly matter and becomes part of nature, but the soul is individualized and gets rewarded in Olam Haba and doesn't go through cycles. So there's an interesting contrast there. Perhaps precisely for this reason, Yaakov stressed in Egypt, Ani ne'asaf elami kivru osi, I forgot how to read it, as noted above. meaning that Yaakov stressed that don't let me be, he says, perhaps it was precisely the lack of belief in the soul's permanent individuality that resulted in the practice of embalming corpses and in the construction of colossal pyramids as dwellings for the dead. Since they believed that the soul transmigrates, they wanted to keep at least the body. Well, that's not how you spell it, right? Embalm. Oh, it is. Yeah, you do need two M's. It's weird. When do you have a word where you pronounce the two M's together? That's strange. Embalmment. You had me there for a second. They too get preserved in the Siberian permafrost. Had he refrained from I wonder if that's what caused you to associate, or is this weird? Had he refrained from embalming his father, the Egyptians would have considered this a lack of reverence for his father. Now, this is another pshat reason, okay? Meaning one is the practical necessity to transport him. The other is if Yosef did not do the proper burial procedure for prominent individuals, they would view that as a disrespect. Yeah.
Why do you go that far? Why can't you just say min and welcome kind of idea, like mishum eva or mishum hanifa, or is this mishum eva? Maybe.
I don't know. I mean, minhag makom is, first of all, is not something we typically apply to non-Jews.
The laws of the land.
Yeah, Dina de Malchus Adina. Yeah, I don't think that applies to customs like this. I think that applies to like laws that the king enacts. And if it was a law that the king enacted, then maybe, but I haven't seen anyone say that. Although actually, no, that's not true. Well, it's partially not true. I saw some Mefarshim use the phrase tachsise malchus, which means like royal procedures. So I don't know if that's more like customs or more like laws. But also, I don't think that would be enough. I think, in other words, for him to just do something to blend into the Egyptians, there's no real reason. But if it looks like he's disrespecting one of the avos or a tzaddik or his father, that could like lead to like a suspicion of like a fault or a blemish in him
so in
that we care about.
In that
Yeah.
same vein, though, he's saying that
The veins were all taken out. No, I'm just kidding. Sorry. Yeah.
if we were to say that he's I guess he's refraining from the practice of mummifying esteemed individuals, right? I guess.
Well, he's not refraining.
No. Meaning,
Oh, you mean?
meaning why saying specifically in a din of it's a reverence for his father, and not that they would say that his father was an esteemed.
Oh, because I think he's taking the route that it has to do with like kibbut av, or something. Not halakha kibbut av, but that your father died. Like it'd be like I don't know, like think about weird burial practices like in Tibet, right? Burial by sky. Do you know about that?
Chuck them off a cliff?
No, that'd be cool. But they at certain elevations in the Himalayas, then it's too cold for the body to like decay or whatever. So they put the body on like a pile of like like a burial like mound or whatever, and then I guess birds of prey or whatever eat it. Now we will look at that and say you're treating your dad as roadkill, but it depends on the on society. So like if he I think there's a thing. I think I saw this in Rabbi Foreman video a long time ago. I don't know if he was basing it on sources, but that it was considered like, I mean, you could say this from Rav Hirsch also. It's disrespectful to like put your dad in the earth to decompose like you would like a piece of meat or a vegetable. Like what? That's what I'm saying is that if he did that, then that would be viewed as like Davka disrespecting his father's body.
What if he told them that wasn't how his family does it?
Oh, then
yeah, I mean, apparently he can't rock their world like that, right? Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, it's especially, and then there's two things. There's disrespecting the body, but then there's they believe that the manner of the burial like affected the soul, So I don't know how much he was worried about that. I mean, that's I have a hard time believing that he was worried about their Avodah Zarah beliefs, but because the disrespect was tied into that, then maybe he did have to worry about that. I'm not sure. Yeah, David.
Were the Mitzvah most concerned? Like, do they see the essence of a person being the soul or the body?
So Rav Hirsch is saying it's the body.
Like they are saying it's the body. Right?
Yeah, I was under the impression, and I don't know if Rav Hirsch was basing this off of facts, because Egyptology was fairly new in the 1800s, right? Like that's when all these like discoveries were were being made, I think. And when they were selling mummies on the street to make into soap. That was a thing. Like, what do you call? Sorry, I got to turn off the recording for 1 second here. Back to this. So I was under the impression that Egyptians revered the soul, but believed that you needed to preserve the body and give it like everything that it needs in the afterlife in order for the soul to enjoy, its afterlife. But Rav Hirsch doesn't seem to be saying that. Okay. Perhaps for this reason, Yaakov adjured Yosef not to bury him. Perhaps the reason Yaakov adjured Yosef not to bury him in Egypt was, as our sages remark, that's what you were referring to, so that the Egyptians should not make an avodah zarah out of his body. For in final analysis, the preservation of mummies that was practiced in Egypt was none other than idolatry, which I don't think he means that literally, that mummification per se is idolatry. I think he means that it was connected with their religion and their avodah zarah. Okay, fine. So this is another, I think this fits into pshat also, like he gave us a nice little thing about the difference in the views of the soul, but pshat also is like, people are looking towards Yosef and admiring him, and there's a Kiddush Hashem factor here. So if he can do this in a way that's not going to, promote avodah zarah, then, and certainly if it's an antidote to avodah zarah, then it's not bad. Okay, so now ready for the crazy midrash. Okay, so this is the famous midrash. So this is in Taanis Hey Amud Beis, and there's more to the midrash than is written here, but the part after this, I didn't think it was relevant, and it's a little rated R. So if you're interested, then you can look at it. Rav Nachman, Rabbi Yitzchak, Havu Yasvi Besudasa. The first part's really weird too. Rav Nachman and Rabbi Yitzchak were sitting at a meal. Amarle Rav Nachman Rabbi Yitzchak. Rav Nachman said to Rabbi Yitzchak, Lema Mar Milsa, tell me something, which is give me a Dvar Torah. Okay. Amarle. So he said to him, Hachi Amar Rabbi Yochanan. This is what Rabbi Yochanan said. We don't talk at meals. Okay. Shema Yatin Kana Leveshet V'Yavli. Maybe you'll choke and die. Okay. so I'm sure like Rabbi Yitzchak clammed up and was like, was that the Dvar Torah, or was that like, so then he's like, they're waiting for the rest of the meal. Then Basar Disa'od, after they ate, Amr Le Hachi. Side point also, the Maharsha or the Torah Tamima said, what do you mean we don't talk at meals? We see people talking at meals every day. So he said that it says ein mesichin, which means we don't cause people to converse at meals, which he said means that if you're eating, then this is part of his question. He said you can like eat, you could talk between bites, like you're not going to choke if you're talking between bites, but he said if you're eating at a meal with someone, don't say something shocking to them while they're eating, because that might make them choke, and he brings us a support, the statement he's going to make now, and then the statement he makes after this, which I'm censoring, okay, which were both shocking statements. Okay, so here's the first shocking statement. Basar Desaud, after they ate, Amr Le Hachi, he said to him, Hachi Amar Rabbi Yochanan. This is what Rabbi Yochanan said. Yaakov Avinu lo mes. Yaakov Avinu didn't die. Okay, that's the statement. Okay, and look at I should have asked if anyone was eating. This is Miuchas Rashi. You should also just be aware on Taanis, Rashi's not Rashi. Okay, he's just not himself. I don't know who he is. And I think there are like papers written on like who wrote the Rashi commentary on Maseches Taanis, but that's why it says Miuchas Rashi. So Lomes Ela Chai Hu La'olam. He lives forever. Okay, so that was the statement. Yaakov Avinu Lomes. Now, where are they getting this from in the pasuk? It does say Vayikba, but it doesn't say Vayamas, right? So I think everyone says that's where he is. Yeah, it says both, right? But it does say that he died, right? Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's where they say that, that's the textual anomaly he's picking up on. Yeah, exactly. Must be he didn't die. Yeah. And Leah, we said it didn't talk about her death at all. So she must also be alive. So he's got at least one life, Yeah. Amar Le, so he said to him, so this is the cheeky question. So did the eulogizers eulogize him, and the embalmers embalm him, and the buriers bury him like for nothing? Bichdi is v'chi b'chinam saftu, like so you're saying they pulled out his brains and spiced up his innards and buried it, for nothing? So it's kind of like a sarcastic, like, remark question, right?
Well, not saying, wait. So he didn't just say like, you mean they pulled out his brain when he was alive?
I think that's what I mean. I think that's what he's asking. Yeah. So Amrle, so he said to him, Mikra ani doresh. I'm darshaning a pasuk. I'm expounding on scripture. Shnemar, as it says. So he's not expounding. So it's fine. The drasha the pasuk he's giving a drasha on is not the drasha of Vayigva. That's just like the textual hook, But the pasuk is this one in Yirmiyahu Lamed Yud, which is the Ata al Tira of the Yaakov, and you do not fear my servant Yaakov, Nu'mar Hashem, saith Hashem, the al Techas Yisrael, and do not don't tremble, Israel. Ki hineni Moshiach merachok. Behold, I save you from afar, the Es Zaracha, and your offspring, the Eretz Shivyan, from the land of their captivity. Vishav Yaakov, and Yaakov will return, Vishakat, and he will be at peace, Visha'anan, and tranquility, Ve'in Machrid, and there will be none who cause him fear. Okay, so what's the drasha? Mikishu Lazaro. It's comparing him to his offspring. Mazaro b'chaim, afhu b'chaim. Just as his offspring are alive, so too he's alive. End of drasha. Okay. So what's weird?
Nothing.
Yeah, right. So, and just in terms of, I don't think these Rashis are necessary for the ideas, but just for pshat here. Mikra ani doresh. So I'm darshaning a pasuk. V'hai dechantu chantaya sevurim hayushme. Sorry, this is an important one. So this Miuchas Rashi holds. So what about the fact that he was embalmed? So sevurim hayushmes. They thought he had died. Now, there are a lot of mafarshim which I considered doing, which I'm not going to do, but you can find them if you look, that basically said for various reasons that like they didn't do the usual embalming process, and like so they basically like left him alone and he looked like he was asleep, and they like just like wrapped him up in bandages or whatever, but they didn't pull out his brains. Okay, so like a lot of people who like take this literally and try to explain it literally and have a field day with that. Okay, we're not taking that approach. Mazaro b'chaim, just as his offspring are alive. Kishehu Makabit es Israel, when he gathers in Israel, Eretz Shivyam, from the land of their captivity. Hachaim hu Makabit, he's gathering the living, obviously. Shein b'shvi, they are in captivity. Shamesim inan b'shvi, the dead are not in captivity. So Afu b'chaim, he also is alive. Shivi enu b'gola, he will be brought in exile. K'dei ligol esbanav, in order to redeem his children. Le'ina, sorry, in order that his children will be redeemed in his eyes. So in other words, the idea that this Miuchas Rashi is saying is that Yaakov has to witness his children being redeemed. Kamosh Matzinu b'Mitzrayim, as we find in Egypt, Vyar Yisrael v'Gomer, v'Darshinan Yisrael Saba. Okay, fine. That's a separate drasha that says, in Israel saw, and they darshan Israel, the grandfather saw, the old man saw. Yeah, that's also weird, right? Because they do bury him in the cave.
But the pesukim go to length to tell us about his funeral procession.
Right, that's also true. Right, maybe he just had really good vision. Yeah. Udachantu chantaya, and what about the fact that they embalmed him? Nidme lahem shemes aval chayhu haya. They imagined that he was dead, but he was really alive. Okay, so the question is like, what do we get out of this drasha? Okay, and the question is like methodological also, which is, is this a drasha that is karov l'pshat? I know I went over this in the past, but this is a new year, so a new like crowd. My favorite mashal here about different types of drashos is a hidden Ibn Ezra. Okay, Ibn Ezra in the Hagdama to Eicha, which no one ever reads. Ibn Ezra Hagdama to Eicha. So he, classic Ibn Ezra style, does a rhyming-ish introductory poem, and he's talking about midrashim. Okay, so he says like this: Al-Kain yidmu legufos ta'me ha-psukim v'ha-midrashim k'malbushim beguf devekim mehem kemeshi dakim umehem abim kasakim v'derech ha-pshat hu aguf ha-pashut v'dvarim u'v'chukim v'chein amru sha'mikra k'pshuto v'hadvarim atikim. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, right. Okay, so he says, therefore, the meanings of psukim are comparable to bodies, and midrashim are like garments that are clinging to the bodies. Okay, so in the mashal, you got the author's intent. Okay, the meaning of the pasuk is the body, and then you've got clothing, which is the midrash. And then he says, mehem kemeshi dakim. Some of the clothing is like, I translated meshi as silk, but I think sheer is better, like see-through clothing, okay? Umehem avim kasakim, but some clothing is thick like sackcloth. So what that means, my understanding of that is that there are some midrashim that are on the pshat, but they allow you, they adorn the pshat and they allow you to see the body. But then if you're wearing sackcloth, all you can see is the sackcloth, and it's just like hanging on the body. It's just like, so same thing with the midrashim. There are midrashim that are designed to shed light on the pshat of the pasuk, and then there are midrashim that have nothing to do with the pshat, and they're just some external idea. Okay, so whenever you see a midrash, even if it's on a pasuk, I mean, that's what a midrash is, then you have to ask yourself, what kind of midrash is it? Is it shedding light on the pshat, or is it just some extrinsic idea? And he says, v'derech hapshat hagufa pashut b'dvarim u'v'chukim. The derech hapshat is the simple body. I don't know if simple body means like the naked body. B'dvarim u'v'chukim in statements and in laws. And that's what they say, that the mikra is in accordance with its pshat, and these statements are copied. I don't know if that means like torch ball peh. Let's see what Rabbi Strickman says. But the words are ancient. Okay, fine. Yeah. Strickman. Yeah. Okay, so what do you say about this midrash about Yaakov Avinu Lomes and this whole? Yeah, that's what you think, right? It sounds quite far-fetched to say that it's shedding light on the pshat. Okay, so what's the idea then? Is this one okay? Again, I don't know which midrashim they teach when you're a kid. Is this one that they teach as a kid? Okay. Yeah, they didn't die. Okay, yeah. Because I always wonder, like, what do the kids think? Like,
I was never taught that one.
Okay.
I remember when I was a kid that there's that midrash when they have a funeral procession.
Yeah.
They all stood in like the order that they traveled, like with the machna, like leader.
Yeah.
And that's the way like Moshe did the machna,
Mm-hmm.
based on like these pesukim like.
Oh, interesting.
That's
Yeah.
what I remember. Then like
Yeah.
the whole fight with Esau at Machpelah.
Yeah.
And then God's son comes and like hits his head off.
Yeah, right.
Pulls in. And
Yeah, that's one. Yeah, right. Yeah, the rolling. Okay, yeah. So that's what I wonder is like, yeah, but do kids picture? See, with Eliyahu Navi not dying, which is actually a machlokas rishonim, then you can easily picture Eliyahu like wandering the earth, and there's all these stories about like Eliyahu like helping people out. But I can just picture like one of these kids who was actually paying attention, reading it. Oh, so they embalmed him, so he's picturing a mummy, and he's sitting in Maros Machpelah, just like a kid could get like a buried alive fear complex from this, yeah. Yeah. Okay, yeah. What's the footnote?
It's from Tainis, the same dog.
Yeah. Does it quote the Shiltei Hagiborim? Because if so, that's who we're going to be doing next.
No, it's the Bereishis.
Okay, so you can read that then, because that's not what we're doing.
All right. Well, I mean, in short, it basically is saying that a regular person is, your soul and body are together.
Mm-hmm.
And the more you focus on material stuff, the more you become connected with your body. But Yaakov was never, I guess he was like, his soul was separate. It says his soul was not torn from his body at all. Oh, it says death is tearing apart the soul from the body.
Mm-hmm.
All right. It says his soul was not torn from his body at all, for his body was not a manifestation of his true self. So
right.
His body, that's why I never died, because he was never part of his body.
Right. So I there are Mefarshim who say things that are similar to that. So I have there's one that we're going to read now that I think is just a more elegant way of saying that. So the Shiltei Hagiborim on, who's a commentary on the Rif. So this is on Avodah Zarah Daf Vav Amud Aleph in the Dapei Rif. There's a whole nice thing he has on midrashim, and this is just like I just took out the part that is about Yaakov Avinu Lomes. So he says like this. Well, derech zeh dorshin. So he's talking about the method of drasha. Well, derech zeh dorshim chachamim hamikra b'chol inyan sheicholin l'dorsho. So the chachamim would darshan they would expound on the pasuk in whatever way you could darshan it. V'amru, and they said in mikra yotzim pshuto, but the pasuk never departs from its pshat. Shehu ha'ikr, which is the essence. V'chol midrash hanidrashim bo yesh men shehu ikr karov l'pshat, yesh men sheyesh bo remez kima'at. So that's like Ibn Ezra was saying. There are certain midrashim that are close to the pshat, and then there are other midrashim that are just like allusions, just alluding to the pshat or alluding to the pasuk. So don't you see what one of the chachamim darshaned in Tainis? Shamar, who he said, Yaakov Avinu Lomes. Yaakov Avinu didn't die. V'heshiv lo chacham echad, and another chacham responded, V'chi b'chinam hispeduhu hasafdanim v'chantu ha'chontim v'kavru ha'kovrim. right? Did they embalm him for nothing? Vayechi lo mikra ani dorish. And he said, I'm just darshaning the pasuk. Chlomar, meaning to say, Gam ani yodea shemes. I know he died. Ella she'ani mischavin lidrosh es hamikra b'chol inyan sheroy lidarish. My intention is to expound on the pasuk in whatever way it's possible to expound. The im efshar lios hamidrash k'mashmao, and if it's impossible for this midrash to be according to its literal meaning, yishbo remes, there's an allusion to an idea. Sheyesh lomar, you can say lo mes k'inyan she'amru. He didn't die in the sense that they say tzadikim afilu b'misasan hein chayim lefi sheshman v'zichram u'masem kayamim la'olam. That tzadikim, even when they're dead, even in their death, they are considered alive because their name and their memory and their actions last forever. And there's lots of interpretations of what that means, but that that tzaddikim, what makes someone a human being? It's their ideas and their choices, and the ideas that the tzaddikim had are, Rambam's ideas are just as alive today as they were in his time, and the actions of, tzaddikim that had a big impact on the world are still continuing to have a good effect. So the essence of who they are is that he's alive. I can't say because I'm Blee Netter giving a Sunday share on that topic in 2 Sundays from now. Okay. You guys are the first to know. Vicarious Merit is the name of the shir. So in Vicarious Merit in the framework of the Rambam's 13 Ikarim. Yeah. Okay. So you'll have to wait till then. / I haven't worked it out yet. So yeah. Okay. So this is one idea. Okay. I thought that this was like that, but it's not. That idea is going to be like another one that the Abravanel says. Okay. So what do you think about this idea?
What about the other avos?
Oh, okay, good. That's the Abravanel's objection. He says, what about the other avos? Now you could say that I'm just darshaning a pasuk, man. Now, and that's what he means. Well, let's just talk about this idea for a second. What does it mean that I'm just darshaning a pasuk and I'm going to darshan it in b'chol inyan shi'acholnu dorsho. I'm going to darshan it in whatever way it could be darshaned. Why would they do that? Why would they do that? Yeah.
See it as an idea, I guess.
Why can't they just teach the idea though?
Oh, because it's classical Chazal to
Take more.
Because they have to find an anchor in the Torah in order to.
Why?
It's a bunch. I don't know.
What were you saying?
I don't know.
I know that's an idea.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
So 3. Sorry. Okay, there's 4 answers that I'll tell you. One of them I think is totally false, and I give a whole Sunday share on this, which is the false one is that Chazal are deriving these ideas from the pesukim and they were given at Sinai. Okay, and there are people who hold that. I don't hold that. I give a whole share on it. Okay, so I think that's just ridiculous. And I not only do I think it's ridiculous, I think the vast majority of Gaonim and Rishonim, as Rambam would say, perhaps all of them disagree with that idea. Okay, drushos are invented by Chazal from their own minds, whereas Torah Sheba'al Peh is given from Sinai. Okay, so drushos are not Torah Sheba'al Peh. Okay, so the 3 answers that I think are acceptable are: number 1, the only text that existed until Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi, or some say even after Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi, the only text was Torah B'Ksav. So it's in the best interest of memory, if you want to memorize it, to attach as many ideas as possible to the text of Torah B'Ksav as a mnemonic device, so that when you read it, you'll remember these ideas. So if I just tell you some abstract idea about Yaakov, that's just relying on your memory. But if I say, why doesn't it say that Yaakov died? Because he didn't die. And then I attach the idea to that. So then you have a hook for memory purposes. Okay, so that's like a Masorah idea, right? Second idea is a poetic spice idea, okay, which is that there is a certain rhetorical power to appealing to the imagination, like Rabbi Zimmer's Sunday shir, of the idea that Yaakov didn't die and he's always there and he's going to be here for the Geula. And you could just give the raw idea, but if you make it emotionally appealing or use literary devices, then it sticks with you more, or it makes more of an impact on you. So not just memorization, but the idea comes alive. Okay. And then the third thing is, and this one I don't know how much I buy because it's a little sneaky, but I can see it being true and I see the effect, which is that Chazal know that Chachamim know that Chazal make up the drushos, right? But the Hamon, the masses, they are maybe won't buy an idea if it's just some rabbi coming up with it. But if you attach it to the text of the pesukim, it instills it with like that divine authority, so it makes it more compelling from a authority standpoint. I don't know how I feel about Chazal doing that. I don't know historically whether Chazal like did tell people that, that this is, I like that this is not toward Shabbat Peh. I'm not sure. Yeah. Okay, fine. So, so going back though, so your objection was, what about the other avos? Right. Oh, so what if he just says, I'm just starting a pasuk?
I'm saying there is a difference in the pasuk or something.
It's true. Right. Yeah. So I think that's what bothers me most is like, what is special about Yaakov, and it's like, and I know Shelty Hagiborim was not aiming to explain the whole drasha, but he kind of leaves out this whole big thing with the pasuk in Yirmiyahu, which seems to be like word count wise a big part of the midrash, So I feel like it's a little lacking. Okay, are you ready for the Abravanel?
Yeah.
Okay, so the Abravanel, we're not doing the whole thing. So he starts off by skipping the first two paragraphs of the Abravanel. I'm going to switch to my good Abravanel here with punctuation. So the first paragraph, he just describes the embalming process. Slightly different than Shadal. He also says that like eventually the flesh will rot and it'll just be bones left. And he says that's why it says that Moshe took the bones of Yosef. Okay, but I've seen mummies and it's not just bones, so I don't know if you ever saw a mummy, whatever. Next paragraph, he just talks about how many days it was. We can skip that. Okay, now so the paragraph with Ha'amnam. Do you have a paragraph with Ha'amnam? Okay, Amnam. Rabbi Yochanan Amar. And he quotes the Gemara in Taanis. It might be on pasuk Daled.
Are we using the same?
Yeah, we're not using the same edition. Yeah. Okay, so he quotes the pasuk. Now, here's a slightly bothersome thing, and you won't see why it bothers me until you guys see his idea. His version of the Gemara says Yaakov lo meis, not Yaakov Avinu. Okay. You would think that doesn't make any difference, okay? But whatever. It's nicer the way he has it. Yaakov lo meis. Amar le bichli chantu chantaya v'saptu softaya. Amar lehem nikrani dorish v'ata atira avdi Yaakov al teichas Yisrael kinhi Moshiach hamirachok ve'ezarach hami'eretz shivyam meiki shu lazaro mazaro b'chaim ahu b'chaim. Okay. Roy la'ayim b'divrei ha'makshe. So he says we need to analyze the words of the makshe. Now the makshe is the guy who asked him the question, okay? Which in our Gemara says it was Rabbi Yitzchak. Okay, so I don't know if his Gemara didn't have that. So lama hiksha Rabbi Yochanan me why did he ask a question from the mummification and the eulogizing? Okay, he should have asked from the pasuk that says in Nun Tezvav, Vayiru achi Yosef ki meis avihem. Right, the brothers of Yosef saw that their father died. Okay, V'gam Yosef Amar, and also Yosef said, Avi hishbiani lemor hine anochi meis. My father made me take an oath saying, I am dying. Okay, and then there's even another pasuk before the brachos where Yaakov says, I am going to die. Right, so that mentions it, explicitly. He's saying that would have been a stronger question. V'od kimat teshuva heshivu Rabbi Yochanan mikra ani doresh. What kind of an answer is it to say I'm darshaning a mikra? Ki in raya me mikra hahu shlo meis Yaakov. Okay, the pasuk that he quoted doesn't prove that Yaakov didn't die. Okay, it's a loose connection saying, oh, it says Yaakov and his sons and Yaakov was alive just like that. It's just not a very good response to that question. Okay, so he quotes Rashi. Rashi Pirish Shehu Adayin Chai Baguf V'Nefesh. Rashi says he's still alive in body and soul. V'inyan Hanata Hu Kfi Dimyonan Lo Kfi Emes. And the embalmment was only by their imagination and not in reality. Okay, and he doesn't comment on Rashi for praise or for refutation. Okay, I don't know. Some people think Shaisa Kavanas Rabbi Yochanan Shiakov Lo Meis Misas Nefesh. Some people say that this means, kind of similar to your Risisei Lila footnote, that Yaakov Avinu's soul didn't die because he went to Olam Haba. Okay, but then you ask the question, what about all the other tzaddikim? That doesn't make sense. That's not unique to Yaakov. You don't need to darshan a pasuk, and all the other tzaddikim this is true for. Okay, fine. So now he gives his answer. Okay. Aval tochin zeh ha'inyan hu. The substance of this idea is shekasher shama hashomea, when the listener heard ma'amar Rabbi Yochanan, the statement of Rabbi Yochanan, Yaakov Avinu lomes, the Yaakov Avinu. Oh yeah, now it says Yaakov Avinu. That is strange. Okay, fine.
Well, he's quoting Rabbi Yochanan.
But he was quoting Rabbi Yochanan earlier also. Yeah. Okay.
Oh, wait,
There's
I
a footnote.
have a correction.
Yeah.
No safe. Yeah, it says again. Yeah, the footnote says to add again.
So he just
Okay, fine. Whatever. Yaakov Avinu lomes. I got to look at the critical editions of the Gemara at some point and see which one it has. It's going to be much nicer if it doesn't say Avinu. Okay, you'll see. So when the Shomea heard that Yaakov Avinu didn't die, Chashav, he thought Shahayadato that what do you call it? That Rabbi Yochanan's view was Shalonis Parda HaChavila Migufo, was that basically his soul didn't separate from his body, meaning that he was like still alive. Valkain Hiksha, and that's why he asked, In Kain, Maihu Asher Saftu Saftaya Bakantu Kantaya. What about all the embalming and eulogizing? Vahamakshahu Lo Havin Kavanus Rabbi Yochanan, but the questioner did not understand the intent of Rabbi Yochanan. Kihine Hashalim Rabbi Yochanan Ra'a, the perfected Rabbi Yochanan saw Sheba Avraham v'Yitzchak v'chein b'Moshe uv'Aaron uv'shar hanavim hakadoshim Amar hakasav v'Yamas. So Rabbi Yochanan noticed that it only uses the word he died by Avraham, Yitzchak, and Moshe and Aaron and other tzaddikim. Ella b'Yaakov shekasher siper hakasav p'tirasa Amar bo v'yigva v'Yasef. By Yaakov, it just says he vayigba and he vayigva, and then he was gathered in v'lo Amar v'Yamas. V'chashav hashalim shaisa asiba b'zeh. So here comes his idea. Okay, now he's gonna. I don't mean this in a like. I do mean this in a critical way. A critical way. Okay. Abravanel is not the least wordy of Mefarshim. Okay, so it's hard to tell though when, like, he's very wordy. It's hard to tell though when he's adding nuances and not. So if it sounds like he's saying the same idea many times, it's possible he is, but it's also possible we're missing nuances. Okay, so we'll get the idea. This is where he first launches it though. He says, "Lafisha ha'uma bichlala," the nation in it as a whole, im heyos shnikra zera Abraham v'Yitzchak, even though it is called the descendants of Abraham and Yitzchak, lo nikra ha'uma atma b'shem Abraham v'lo b'shem Yitzchak v'lo b'shem Moshe. The nation is never called Abraham, Yitzchak, or Moshe. Okay, aval nikra ha'uma b'shem Yaakov Yisrael. Right, so you would never say about like, let's say like in contemporary times, right? Let's say like terrorists launched an attack against Israel. You would never say Avraham was attacked, but you would say Israel was attacked. You would never say Yitzchak was attacked. You would say Bnei Yitzchak or Bnei Avraham and even Bnei Yaakov, but you would never call them Yisrael. But sorry, you would only use the word Yisrael by of the Avos, Yisrael is the only one who you call the nation by. Okay. V'kasher hamakshe, wait, no. V'hi umizeh atzad v'abchina. And in that sense, tzidek hashalim or tzadak hashalim ba'amro, then this perfected person was justified in saying Yaakov lo mes. Ki adayin lo mes v'hi ha'uma bichlala. He still didn't die, and that's the nation itself. Okay. So when he says Yaakov didn't die, it means the nation of Israel did not die, and the nation of Israel is still alive. Okay, now the idea is not complete yet. I can see the skepticism. Okay. So when the questioner questioned him without understanding his intent, Rabbi Yochanan responded regarding the idea that he was darshaning. He's not answering the questioner's question. He's like, forget you. Like, I don't. You just didn't understand my point. Okay. So the pasuk he's bringing in has nothing to do with responding to the embalmment thing. Okay, so he says, "Ki biyadua." Okay, yeah, ki biyadua shayachantu gufo v'saftu he parted nafshem. Rabbi Yochanan knows that they embalmed his body and that they eulogized the departure of his soul. Aval amar mikra ani dorish ve'ata. Now listen very carefully to the whenever he quotes the pasuk. Ve'ata al tira avdi Yaakov al teifas Israel. Now you do not be afraid, my servant Yaakov, and don't tremble, Israel. But okay, fine. V'adayin ha'hakasha hazos v'kochahi. The question still remains. Sh'im hayu divrei hanavi hineni moshiacha merachok u'meretz shiviacha. If the Navi had said, "Behold, I am saving you from a distant land and from the land of your captivity," az hayaroish yuvan she'al zera Yaakov kol hakasav medaber shiasmidu la'ad. then it would be proper to understand the pasuk as saying that the offspring of Yaakov were being spoken about and that they would last forever. Okay, that's if it said, I will save you from the land of your captivity. But what does it actually say? But now that it says, I'm going to save you from a distant land. The zar'acha, okay, me'eretz shivyam, from the land, their offspring, your offspring from the land of their captivity. Moresh al Yaakov atzmo amar hineni Moshiach hamerachok. Now we have to say that, behold, I will save you from a distant land is talking about Yaakov. The albanav amar v'es zaracha me'eretz shivyam. Your offspring I will save from the land of their captivity. So let me repeat that. Okay, the pasuk says, "I will save you from a distance, and I will save your offspring from the land of their captivity." If it said you, I will save you and bring you from the land of captivity, we could say the whole thing is talking about the Jewish people, and Yaakov is not alive.
Which we do all the time.
We do all the time, right? Exactly. Okay, right. But since it says, "I will save you," first person singular, and your offspring. So who is the you in the pasuk?
Right.
It must be Yaakov. It must, which the first half of the pasuk says is, "Don't be afraid, my servant Yaakov," which we can now no longer say is the Jewish people. That's literally Yaakov. So the Navi's talking to Yaakov. So he's still alive. Okay, now again, this is still a drasha. We're not saying he's actually still alive, but he's now going to tie it together. Okay. Any questions on the words here? Because that's the basis of his drasha. Good. Okay. The Ilamalakin, Lama Tala Hayud Harishon Yaakov Hayud Hashem Bizarro. If this weren't the case, why would it make the first promise addressing Yaakov and the second one his offspring? Ela Harishon al Yaakov Avinu Nevar. Rather, you must say that the first one was about Yaakov. Umiyasher Amar Viata Altira Avi Yaakov Al Techas Israel Kihini Moshiach Hamirachol Mora Shivticho Sheshem. Okay, now this is the second part of the idea. So, what is the promise? Mora Shivticho Sheshem Yaakov V'chein Shem Yisrael Yihiu Chaim B'Kamim Laad. He's saying that the name of Yaakov, or if you prefer, the identity of Yaakov and the identity of Israel will last forever. Kamoshu Chai V'Kayam Zaro, just like the offspring lasts forever. Okay, so in other words, like this. We have many pesukim saying that the Jewish people will last forever. However, that could just be in the same way that the 10 tribes are lasting forever, right? 10 tribes are out there right now. Their genetics are out there. You know, same thing with the what do you call it? The Egyptians and the Moabites and the all those other people. They're out there, but they did not retain their identity, right? So, like the Vikings, exactly, right? Ain't no Vikings walking around now, even though there's plenty of DNA, right? Okay, dispersed throughout everyone, right? So the idea of the pasuk, not the idea of, okay, the idea of the pasuk, not the drasha. I mean, this is the drasha. The pasuk he's saying is it's a drasha on the pasuk, but the identity of Yaakov will be extant forever, just like the biological descendants of Yaakov. That's a new idea. Okay, and then let's just see him finish it off. And he quotes a pasuk, "Maskim lamash amar hanavi." This is in agreement with Yeshעיהו. This is agreeing with what Yeshעיהו says. Kain yamod zarachem v'shimchem. Thus will your offspring and your name last. Ki yikaru tamid b'shem Yaakov. They will always be called by the name Yaakov. Lefish Yaakov lames, because Yaakov didn't die. B'shem Yaakov Yisrael shneim Yoshia mehahefset. And God will save Yaakov and Yisrael, both of them he will save from loss. Kilo yishtanu midasam ushmam b'shum zman. Their mida, meaning their behavior, their identity, and their name will not cease at any time. They will not change at any time. Yeah.
There's not on the line above when it says Ki Yikro Tamid B'Shem Yaakov Lafish Yaakov Lames. Is that a little bit circular?
I think he's being poetic. He's saying like because as our drasha says, Yaakov Lames. Now that's what it means. I will save you from afar. It means distant in time, lo makomi, not in location. Umatov sofa perak shamar, pasuk shamar. How good is the end of the pasuk? It says v'shav Yaakov v'shaki v'shanan ve'im macharid. That Yaakov will return and be tranquil and be at peace and without anyone to intimidate him. Shetikre ha'uma b'shem Yaakov tamid b'galus v'gula. The nation will be called Yaakov in the galus and in the gula. Okay, yeah.
There's also then a thought of why, back to Akiva's question of the not having the other avot, of Yaakov is the one that his offspring were pure. There was no Ishmael, there was no Esau. So it's just purely
Pure Yaakov, right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's good. Before I want to go back and talk about this in a second, but I want to supplement his idea with Mefarshim on that pasuk in Yeshayahu he quoted. So the pasuk in Yeshayahu says, "Ki kasher hashmayim hachadashim ha'artza chadasha asher ani oseh omdim lefanai nu Hashem." Just as the created heavens and the created earth that I made stand before me, saith Hashem, meaning just like the heavens and the earth last forever. Once he created them, so too will your offspring and your name last. Okay, and this nice little radak, nice moderate sized radak says like this: Karm chadashim kihim omdim b'chidusham v'lo yivlu. They're called new. The heavens are called new because they remain in their new state. And they don't wear out. They're as good as the day that they were created. So they are today. And so too they will be. So to the earth. The earth will not wear out, only its inhabitants will wear out. That's what Shlomo says, a generation goes and a generation comes, but the earth lasts forever. And what it means when it says that they will be before me, there's our Wednesday reminder to get more space, as it always happens. When it says that they are before me, it means I am the cause of their continued existence. Okay, yeah, I will establish them in their newness. Okay, don't think that you people who are being redeemed, don't think that your offspring after you will be exiled from their land, and their name will be lost in the exile. Lo yihezeh. That won't be the case. The good that you guys will be in when you get redeemed, so will be your offspring. For eternity. Just like the days of the heavens over the earth. The name of Israel will never be lost. And they will not be exiled from their land forever. Like the goyim think, that's what the Gog and Magog are going to think when they attack us. I thought that Radak was better than it was. The Malbim is better than I think. He says like this. Short Malbim. They have said, so these existences will not change anymore. Their individual members of the heavens will remain and not be destroyed. The offspring will not be ended through murder and through the sword. Their name will not be annihilated by converting to other religions of Avodah Zarah. They're going to remain in Guf and in Nefesh. I like that because that, like, you know, you could say that that's really what the Miuchas Rashi meant, that Yaakov is still alive in Guf and in Nefesh. That he didn't mean that Yaakov was like literally alive. He meant that Yaakov, the people, is alive in Guf and in Nefesh. Okay, so what do we get from this now? So we get this idea. So whenever you have a midrash, I hold that midrashim have to be teaching you ideas in perfection. Okay, or that's somehow going to affect your perfection. Like the Rambam says, you know, that every idea in the Torah and in Chazal is teaching you either an idea in mitzvos, in midos, or in deos. You know, in halacha, in ethics / interpersonal behavior, or in philosophical ideas. You know, so what does this do for us? This idea about Israel's identity not dying. Like it's a fact. It's a fact, and we know it's a fact because it's said in a Navi. It's not just said in a drasha. It's said in Yeshayahu. But like, what do we get out of this midrash?
I mean, isn't there supposed to be like a feel good kind of thing, right? Like there's something deeper than that.
So that's what I'm looking for. And again, I'm still new at learning midrashim. Okay, like, you know, I don't know the derech of midrashim. So I know that there are people who will say that the midrash is basically just giving you hope. You know, and I don't object to that in principle, that the midrash could be doing that. And look, I'll give you on good authority. Abravanel in his essay on Agada says that there are midrashim that are teaching simple ideas. They're not all deep ideas. Okay, but I somehow like. Okay, let me make the best case for that I can. Okay, which is I'll put it as a question: why do you need that drasha if Yeshayahu says it explicitly? Of Yaakov Avinu Lomeis. It's a whole long, elaborate drasha. And the nevuah is way more authoritative than a drasha because it's a nevuah.
Right. You're saying, okay, so you're saying what's the chiddush of this?
Yeah.
Well, I have an idea. I guess the idea would be that it's teaching us that preservation of call it tradition, call it Torah, call it whatever you want to call it per se. But this preservation of the shame Yaakov, or the not necessarily just shame, but also the what makes Bnei Yaakov, right? Like that's something that we hold as important. Which I don't know why you think it otherwise. I was trying to take away from like
Yeah. No, I like the direction you're going. Yeah.
That's kind of like where I'm looking at. I don't know how fully functional it is.
Right. Okay, I'll tell you one step, okay, which is I don't know about you, but which idea is if I tell you this, there are two presentations of the idea, okay. Just as the heaven, Yeshayahu said, just as the heavens remain before me, so too will your offspring and your name remain. That versus Yaakov didn't die. Which presentation is more epic?
Oh yeah.
Right, the Yaakov not dying is more epic, right? And so I think there is an emotional component to it, like a rhetorical component that it impacts you. That like like you literally see how into people get when they sing Am Yisrael Chai, right? Od Avinu Chai. I mean, I think that is a reference to this midrash. I think, right? What? Why?
I mean, he's dead.
No, but now we have an idea though. Oh, Avinu. Okay, fine. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Oh, it was nice. By the way, why I think it works out better if it doesn't say Avinu.
Yeah.
It still works. You could say that it means like the idea of Yaakov. But so I think there is a like, let's say you are looking around all the Jews assimilating, or like at the downward turns of Klal Yisrael, and you are drawing hope and bitachon in God about the promises. I think it is like a easier idea to emotionally latch onto, to say that like Yaakov will always be alive, like Yisrael never dies. Cobra Kai never dies, but I guess you haven't watched that. Okay, fine. But so you could say that is the purpose of this midrash, is to give you that that emotional boost, which is instrumental in solidifying your bitachon in Hashem and keeping this promise.
So it is closer to a.
Is closer to a feel-good idea. Yeah, I'm just wondering if there's another idea. So I'm going to speculate here. Okay, it could be that it does give you another idea of what Yisrael means. Okay, because I think there is the natural feeling. Obviously, is that there are individuals and individuals die. Okay, but that classic thing. I've heard it with socks, and I've heard it with a ship. Who's the guy in the Iliad and the Odyssey? The main character. Homer. No, that's the author.
Oh, right.
Odysseus.
Say again.
Odysseus.
Odysseus. Yeah. The Odyssey, right? Odysseus. Yeah, correct. Yeah. Theseus. Yeah.
You mentioned ship.
Yeah. Right.
Theseus was a different character, but philosophically relevant. Homer was the poet that memorized
Right.
the epic.
What's the ship's name?
The Argo, I believe.
Is it? Is that what they call them? Argonauts?
Yeah.
Okay, right. So I've heard this about that also. Okay, which is if you the panels. What?
The paradox.
Is it a paradox? If you take the plank, if you remove, say again? Thesis ship. Okay, fine. Okay, so if you remove plank by, if you replace the ship's planks plank by plank, right?
And you build, and while you're replacing the planks, you put the old planks back in, like on the side, but you rebuild the ship basically.
Oh, interesting. I didn't hear that full form. Okay, but
Yeah, basically.
I think it's still both of them work out. So is it the same ship? Right. Or if you take a sock and you like darn the sock, which I don't know what darning means. It's some sort of like, I think it means like you're replacing the yeah, right. Yeah. If you are replacing the threads, every single thread of a woven garment is the same garment, you know? So I know that's a whole philosophical question. The answer for our purposes is yes. Okay, which is that that the nation is, as long as you have this core group of people that holds by these same ideas and values, then that is the same nation that is living, you know, that has been living since the time of Yaakov Avinu, right? It started with Yaakov Avinu because that was where the Shvatim started, you know, and that nation is alive. So I think it could be that and I think that is a chiddush, you know, like I don't think people necessarily conceive of nations in that way. I think they do think of nations in a much more physical, biological, political way, not in a maintaining ideas throughout throughout the generations way, you know, and think of it as like one. It's the same thing. It's just the individual components are being like replaced, you know, and so it prompts you to conceive of the nation of Israel in a different way than you would have without this. And that the nation started with Yaakov, and that same nation is alive. It's just the individual things have swapped out. But yeah, that's all I got for that that one.
It's kind of like saying that like the essentialness is the shame almost.
Yes,
like,
yeah.
all the pratim are like accidental to
Exactly.
the shame Yaakov.
Yeah, exactly. It is like the analogy of species, you know, of
Yeah.
like, especially the way that the you know, pre-scientific Rishonim thought, or they're all pre-scientific. All the Aristotelian Rishonim thought about species is that it's like just the same existence being perpetuated through different individuals,
Right.
you know. Now, so that's all I had to say about the Yaakov Avinu Lo Meis. Any questions on that? There's one more like footnote after this.
Not a question, but an interesting idea.
Sure.
Like, it's kind of out of left field a little bit. But
Yeah.
not really. But there was an idea that have you heard of Baron yet?
Yeah,
Okay, so he had an interesting.
the
idea.
legendary Baron. Yeah.
So he had an interesting idea that I'm thinking of now that kind of works with what we're saying here, or I should say, this kind of works to help support him.
Yeah.
In that he has an idea on like when it says like, for instance, like Adam lived for 930 years, right?
Yeah.
He has an idea that means that people who called themselves by Adam, that like dynasty lasted for 930 years.
Mm.
That's what all those names and that's what all those like different things.
Yeah.
Were. Like not that it was a literal person living for that long.
Right.
So
Classic controversial Baron idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here it's the same idea.
Yeah.
Yaakov is still alive.
Right. Still alive. Indefinitely. That's true.
Lived
Yeah.
For 3,000 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
So interesting. That was just one thing.
Yeah. That is good. I have to read a quote. Hold on a second. I don't know. I don't know if this quote's relevant, but I have to look it up. So this is from the movie Cloud Atlas, which is another great movie. I just want to see if this quote is actually relevant. Nope, never mind. It's not. Okay. It's tangentially relevant, but not fully. Okay. Last thing, which is not all of the Chazal were so happy with the embalming decision. Okay. So the Netziv brings down a midrash rabbah, which I did not actually look up. So we'll just rely on his. Yadua b'midrash rabbah, this is the Netziv on Bereishis Nun pasuk beis. It is known in midrash rabbah kuf gimel. Shahayu tarumos al Yosef alzeh, that there were criticisms of Yosef about this. Ad she'amru, to the point where they say there, Lama meis Yosef lifnei echav. Why did Yosef die before his brothers? Rebbe Omer, okay, Rebbe says al shechanet hazavi, because he embalmed his father. Amar lo HaKadosh Baruch Hu said to Yosef, Lo ha'isi yachol lishmor es tzadikai. You think I can't preserve my own tzadikim? Lo kach amarti lo, didn't I say to him, Al tiri tola'as Yaakov, do not fear, O worm of Jacob. Al tiri tola'as es Yaakov, don't fear the worm. Yeah, Yaakov. Yeah.
Is it like a comma there? The worms.
Yeah, I think so. It reads weird. Al tiri tola'as es Yaakov. I don't exactly know how to read, but I think it's an idea like that. Worms. Yeah. Yeah. Worm. Yeah. So the question is, what is this midrash's point here? What?
Could Talad be like the one who gains or tries to preserve Yaakov?
Not at all.
Not at all.
Yep. There's an ayin. It means worm.
What's
Yeah.
the point of it?
Yeah. Like what is, so, I mean, our Chazal, like, plain pshat is that he's not criticized for this, you know? So, but the midrash is saying that he was criticized, that he was punished by dying before his brothers. and the punishment is being expressed, or the avera is God saying, you think I can't protect my own tzaddikim? Now I don't know. Actually, I do know. What was that?
I remember learning this.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So
I think with the midrash it says that he died early because he allowed his brothers to mention his father as his Ovid, as his
Evan?
There is that other midrash.
I've heard that also.
I feel like I do this.
Oh yeah. So I believe that the Netziv is of the opinion. Have you ever heard this thing that tzaddikim don't rot?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. And there are people who take that literally. Okay, including Catholics, right? That used to be a requirement for sainthood, is the incorruptibility. If you want to go down a Wikipedia hole that occupied me for too long when I was supposed to be preparing for this year, look up incorruptibility on Wikipedia, and it has all the stuff about all of the Catholic saints who don't rot. Some of them are fake, some of them are real, and some of them are Rishayim, so it doesn't quite line up. But there are people, I know that there are Jews who believe that tzaddikim literally don't rot. Because there are midrashim like that, So I think this is kind of based on that idea that Yosef should have trusted that God would have protected and preserved Yaakov's body for burial. But I also think that that's weird that like, ain't something all we don't rely on miracles, so why should he have? But I think it's through a miracle. I think they even the people who hold that say it's not like naturally they don't rot. I don't think. Yeah. So I don't know what to make of this one.
Of the midrash itself.
Say it again.
That's a midrash saying for example, right?
This is a midrash, yeah. Yeah, so I'll read what the Harchev Davar, I think, is also the Netziv. I'll read what he says about it. I don't know if I can make sense of it. He says, "Achein vada yesh lahavin da'ato shel Yosef." We definitely need to understand Yosef's mentality here. V'chi haya savar she'Avram v'Yitzchak shelo nechnetu shalta behem rima v'tolea chas v'shalom. Did Yosef think that Abraham and Yitzchak, who were not embalmed, got eaten by worms? Chas v'shalom. Yeah, right. So I think the Netziv is under the belief that Avram and Yitzchak did not rot. Okay, so that's his premise. Okay. Venira al pi had isa ben Nazir perak basra al ha pasuk v'shachavti ima v'sai unasasani mimatrayim ukvartani b'kvurasam. V'yanu sham shehikpid aviv shelo yehei nikbar l'sha'a b'mitrayim. So his father was makbid to not be buried immediately in Mitrayim. Dim kain ha'hechreach l'kachas ha'adama kidin tefus as a mace, because then that would have required taking the earth. Kedin tefus as a mace. I don't know what that is. Umizeh, I mean, I think like to not exhume the body, maybe. Umizeh having Yosef she'ein aviv makbid l'kavro techav umiyad achar misa. So from there, Yosef understood that his father didn't care about being buried immediately after death. Elashi heyachol lahalino harbe b'li kvura. He could leave him for a long time without burial. V'kasher kein asa Yosef mipnei kvodo shel mace. And when Yosef did this out of cover for the mace, that's what caused the mourning to last for so long. And that's why Yosef was worried about his father, that he wouldn't putrefy when he's on the bed. Not like Avraham and Yitzchak, who arrived at the burial immediately. Also, the special properties of Maras HaMachpelah helps preserve their bodies, according to the Netziv. God was makbid, saying the tzaddik would certainly be protected even when he's on the bed. So it sounds like he is saying that Yosef should have relied on God to preserve Yaakov's body on the bed for however many days that was. Yeah, and he shouldn't have, well, it was 70 because he embalmed him for that long, so it would have been less probably. Yeah, so, but I don't know what the idea is, and it could be that the Chazal who authored this, the Chazal were of the opinion that Yaakov wouldn't have rotted, in which case, we don't have to try to figure out the idea, because they were just, that was their premise. But still, why would he be punished by being killed before his brothers? It's hard. This I didn't work out. That's why it's the footnote to this year. So if you think of anything, let me know. But that's all I got. Okay, should we stop? Okay. All right, let's, if you think of anything, let me know. All right. See ya. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.